Urban fantasy is legendary for its tropes. Contrary to popular belief, tropes aren't a bad thing. When you understand them, they can be your superpower. In this video, I'm counting down the top 10 most common urban fantasy tropes. If you're wanting to break into the genre, or if you just want a quick tour of one of the hottest selling fantasy subgenres right now, this video's for you. What's up, guys? My name is Michael Around with Author Level Up, helping you write world-class stories better and faster. I write urban fantasy, and I've published about 6 books in the genre so far. This video is especially fun for me. I create these writing videos because I believe that each of you has Stephen King level talent, and you just need help unlocking it. If you're new here, consider subscribing, and click that little bell to get helpful writing videos every week. And in this writing video, we're talking about urban fantasy tropes. If you aren't familiar with urban fantasy, it's defined as magic and magical creatures in a contemporary urban setting, compared to epic fantasy like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, which usually takes place in a society not as advanced as ours. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher, American Gods by Neil Gaiman, the Once Upon a Time TV series, the X-Files TV series, and even the animated series Gargoyles are prominent examples of urban fantasy and pop culture. I love urban fantasy because it's the perfect blend of fantasy and reality. Now, before we move forward, let me disclaim that tropes aren't magic bullets. Just because you use a trope in your writing doesn't mean it will work. Alternatively, if you avoid all tropes in this video, you're also likely to alienate readers. Tropes are really nothing more than reader expectations. You can affirm or subvert those expectations. The true power in being a writer is controlling reader expectations and managing those expectations in an artistic way. Watch my video on tropes for more information. Trope number 1 is that magic is usually hidden. Vampires and werewolves walk among the unsuspecting. Wizards live among muggles. And with some notable exceptions, magic is usually a secret available to a hidden few. But when night falls, the supernatural side of the city comes to life, which brings me to trope number 2, which is that magic usually takes place in the seedy underbelly of the city. Vampires are the best example of this, and by their definition, are the seedy underbelly of any story they inhabit. Some people only read urban fantasy that has vampires in it. Demons generally don't live out in the open since they thrive in the shadows. This seedy underbelly trope often lends the dark and gritty tone that urban fantasy is known for. Trope number 3 is culture clash, because the seedy underbelly and the city mix in interesting ways. For example, this is why you have elves playing in rock bands like in Emma Bull's War for the Oaks, wizards like Harry Dresden doing detective work in Chicago, ancient gods working as prostitutes, taxi drivers, and shady businessmen in American Gods, and most recently, orcs as police officers in the Netflix movie Bright. Often, there's little explanation for this, and it's just an accepted fact in the story world that mythical creatures live and work there. So we've talked about the setting, which is important, but I should stop and say that there are perfectly good deviations from the cityscape trope. You can see urban fantasy set in New York, Chicago, a fictional metropolis, or in rural settings. One of the most notable examples I've read is the Dark Magic Enforcer series by Al K. Line. Best name ever, by the way. And this series takes place in Cardiff, England, and it's a welcome departure from the huge city trope that's so common in the genre. Anyway, now that we've painted a map of where urban fantasy takes place, let's talk about the characters that inhabit it. Trope number 4 is mythical creatures. Werewolves, vampires, gods, shamans, demons, angels, dragons, shifters, you name it, it's no urban fantasy without a robust bestiary. The main character, villain, and supporting characters are usually a kind of mythical creature, but not always. The next trope, trope number 5, ties into the mythical creatures trope, and that's vampires and werewolves. Not every story has them, and you don't have to include them in your story, but if you're going to write them, you have to be a little careful because they're overdone. But readers do love their vampires and werewolves. Trope number 6 is that there's usually a unique twist on the mythical creatures. Maybe the vampires have learned how to walk in the daylight, or maybe, like in the Mercy Thompson series, the main character is a shifter coyote living among wolves. Every author does something a little different to make their mark on the genre, and it's ultimately one of the major things that readers judge a series by. Okay, so we've talked about the world and the characters that inhabit the world. Let's talk about the main character. Contrary to popular belief, urban fantasy is not all badass female protagonists. There's a growing trend of tough guy urban fantasy with badass male protagonists too. Trope number 7 is that regardless of whether your hero is a male or female, they usually have a unique profession or skill that's central to the story. Mercy Thompson is an auto mechanic. In Annie Bellet's The 20-Sided Sorceress series, the heroine owns a board game shop. Harry Potter is a wizard in training. For a shameless plug, my heroine in my Magic Tracker series is a dream mage who jumps into people's dreams and offers unique interpretations to help them solve their problems. Whatever their profession, the hero is usually at home with their real-world job and is pretty good at it. Trope number 8 is totally optional and perhaps the only one that frequently ventures into cliché territory, and that's that the hero has a special or hidden power and lives in hiding, even from the supernatural community. If others find out about this power, they'll kill or harm the hero. Personally, I see this a lot, and as a reader, I prefer something a little more original. It's similar to the Chosen One trope, and I dislike that trope for the same reason. But it's a thing, and readers won't be too upset if you do it, as long as you execute. For a great example of this by an indie author, check out the Dragon's Gift series by Lindsay Hall. The main heroine is a conjurer who has to hide her skills from the world for fear of being killed if she reveals them. Trope number 9 is the most common of all the tropes, and that's the first-person point of view. It's hard to separate urban fantasy from first person, and I honestly think that the POV has become so common that if there was one trope I wouldn't break, it would be this one. Readers have come to expect it. And with the first-person POV comes usually a heavy dose of sarcasm and cynicism, but those are optional because they tend to be overdone. It's refreshing to read a hero or heroine that's not overly sarcastic in urban fantasy, honestly. Trope number 10 is love. Love is optional in urban fantasy, but it's common to see a love interest who occupies the hero or heroine's heart. The key is to make sure that the love isn't the focus of the story. Otherwise, your story is probably a paranormal romance, which is another league entirely, though it is similar to urban fantasy. The key to remember is that with urban fantasy, conflict comes first and love comes second, and in paranormal romance, it's the other way around. I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you write or read urban fantasy? If so, tell me your favorite trope that you like to see and your least favorite trope. Let's learn from each other. I'll start. My favorite trope in the genre is mythical creatures living and working in society. When done right, it's sophisticated and thought-provoking, like in American Gods. My least favorite trope in the genre is that vampires always have to be Eastern European or have thick accents. I know, Dracula, but come on, it gets old. I'm eager to hear your guys' comments. If you're interested in reading some good urban fantasy, I've put together a short list of my favorite titles that define urban fantasy for me personally. Check it out in the video description. And if you like this video and want to see me do more videos on tropes and subgenres, let me know. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if it's your first time watching. If you want to be a better writer and write better stories faster, then we should be best friends. And this video has been sponsored by my podcast, The Writer's Journey. Every Thursday, I get personal and talk about my writing career and my journey to go from nobody to best-selling author. That's a fancy marketing tagline, but if you want to hear more insights into my writing process in a more intimate setting, and listen to me while you're at the gym or doing chores or driving, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcast. So, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.